Yes, welcome everyone. If you're watching live, that means it is noon on a Wednesday, which means, of course, it is time for the High Noon Hemp Show worldwide, as they say, whatever time zone you're in. But the time zone we're in, it's high noon, which is awesome. This is episode 319, as you can see right there. We've been doing this many years, bringing you all the information, the infotainment, if you will, when it comes to hemp. I'm, of course, Stoner Jesus. I do various things on the interwebs. He is Beach. He does various things as well. He's going to do most of them during this show. You can see us in many places. If you're on Facebook, it's Temptations Beach Facebook page. If you're on YouTube, it's the Jedi Hemp YouTube channel. If you're on X, make sure you're following at Hemptations Beach, who loves hemp, of course, and is high above said location of Hemptations. How are things this week in the world of Hemptations?
They are good as it gets in Ohio and other places. It is true. Welcome, everyone, to the High Noon Hemp Show. It's true. I am high above the Hemptations and Flower Factory here in the good old North Side, Ohio. Welcome, everyone. Again, remember, the FDA has not evaluated this show for safety or efficacy. Always take that into account. Stoner, you know what the day is?
Oh, Lord. I thought we were done doing this. No, Beach. What day is it?
Hemp Day. Make it a hemp day. Every day's a hemp day in my world.
That's right.
All right, let's go ahead and put our peace signs on our hemp hearts. I pledge allegiance to the hemp fields of America and to the soil in which it is planted. One seed under the sun with responsibility, sustainability, and thrivability for all. All right, so we got the everything that I said last week came true. Can you believe it? It's like I almost know what I'm talking about. You know, I get calls from people like, Beach, what do we got to do? And I'm like, just calm down. Most more than likely, this is not going to happen. Now, of course, we just got to stay, which I knew that this is how it would work for 2 weeks. It was a 90-day ban. The 2-week stay will cover the amount of time that it will take for a judge to decide that this ban is not legal. Just another prediction that I believe will come true. So we'll see how it all plays out, but we have, at least 2 more weeks. And I do want to be clear, and I don't think enough people actually read or paid attention to what was going on. But from my understanding, the only thing that they technically even roughly associated with the term intoxicating hemp was Delta 8. So once again, this ban doesn't even clearly define what intoxicating hemp is. So, I wrote a little ditty and I threw it out there and it didn't get a whole lot of response, but it says the same thing that I say. I'm intoxicated by the nutritional value of hemp seed. Is hemp food illegal?
Right.
I truly feel euphoric wearing hemp head to toe every day. Does that make hemp clothing illegal? Again, and so right out of the gate, intoxicating hemp was way too vague, either way. And so, again, we'll see what the end result is. And really, they have to do that first. And then, even if they do that, once again, they don't have the legal permission to redefine what hemp is to begin with. Only the federal government can do that. That's why most of these things don't ever go through on as far as bans, because by banning it, you're changing the legal definition of what hemp is. Intoxicating hemp, whatever, doesn't matter. And again, the federal government has clearly defined what hemp is, and states don't have the authority. They can regulate, and once again, the age restrictions and the packaging things and the whatevers, and again, if there's going to be a license, it has to be open to everyone, and it has to be more like a cigarette license. It's cheap, and it puts your address in a database so they can come and check on you to make sure that you're not selling these products to minors. That's all it takes. It doesn't have to be anything special. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Every gas station and smoke shop should be able to apply for one of these if they can get a tobacco license to sell their nicotine vapes and all that other crap, and they still have to card. And 21 in Ohio, nicotine, 21 in Ohio. So again, we're not doing anything different than regulating the same products that are already out there. Vapes and all this other stuff, nicotine, cigarettes, whatever it is. So the license should just be, I don't know, a 21 and older. And again, they have to tell us exactly if they really want to make this work. Because again, just calling it intoxicating hemp that's too much of a variable. I should not have to card someone for CBD, but it does have a little, our CBD is full spectrum. So it has a little bit of THC in it. So if THC is on the list, then that makes CBD products, full spectrum CBD products, 21 and older. And that's ridiculous. And that would be the same for CBN. That would be the same for CBG. And that's a ridiculous idea. So again, they don't know. No one's actually called and consulted me from the state to say, "Hey, Beach, what's the best way to do this?" I mean, I clearly illustrated every week on the show for the most part. I'm just saying so they can pick it up. And the most logical, and again, the most logical, not the one that benefits me the most or benefits anybody the most, just the most logical approach to doing this if you need to do it. Anyway, so we'll see how it plays out. I do want to say that I had today in the history of beach and temptations and all of this discussion, I do want to read what I posted on Facebook on this day in 2019. $500 a year per location is not at all fair in the agricultural community. Keep the poor people from growing hemp. Why do I need to be any decent distance from anything? Still treating it like it's a drug, just like Ohio would. Get your comments to the Department of Agriculture. So that was obviously immediately after we legalized to grow in Ohio, and also put like what the licensing and all the stuff was going to be. So anyway, today in the history of Temptations, we hosted the Glassblower Salt down at Bogart's. This was a big event. We worked with, I worked with the Cupboard. Barry from the Cupboard came to me and he said, "Beach, man, I'm bringing salt to Cincinnati. And I'd really like you to help me. More marketing." So I did a lot of marketing for the event and everything. And then we had a little booth set up, but I didn't even really, or actually, I don't even think I had a booth. I think I had like a banner up on the wall, and I just kind of stood there and talked to people. Because honestly, I don't even think we had a booth. I watched them blow. They had all kinds of pieces up for sale or auction, I believe. But it's pretty cool. And again, Salt is the the biggest, still probably one of the biggest modern glass blowing names. He became huge in the United States, so it's kind of a big deal. So I got pictures of me and Salt somewhere. I'm sure of that. Okay, all right. Well, let's get on to the product spotlight and on with the show. 4 from the store, 1 from my door. Sometimes even more on eBay. We'll see how this week goes. I'm not sure even. Oh, yes, I do know. So the first one is a Planet Everywhere clipboard. So that's hemp composite wood. What you would call a press board, maybe. And then, we put the little clip on there, and then it's a clipboard. So if you need a clipboard, or for someone that does need a clipboard, what a great gift.
Yeah.
Don't leave out in the rain, though. Anyway, how about some hacky sacks? I know it's kind of the end of hacky sack season, but they were looking at me saying, "Hey, don't forget about us just because it's getting cold."
That's right. One more time.
If you need a hacky sack, to get you through the winter, maybe a hacky sack in the winter at home. If you're that good, you're not breaking lamps or windows or stuff, because that's what I would do. Just want to, sit around the old hacky sack room and hacky sack.
Right.
Hemp straws. So I do believe that I do have a big box of hemp straws on eBay now for like a super great price. And I think there's 100 in the box. And then we have the smaller packs. We have just like a 5-pack and a 10-pack. If you like to use a straw and you know how ridiculous plastic is, these are biodegradable and compostable. So these can go in the compost pile, and they will break down within 90 days, and you can plant some flowers with that soil or whatever you want to use that soil for. In Ohio, you can use that soil to grow cannabis.
Yep.
So you can actually just throw it in your cannabis soil, bam, be done with it. Anyway, most growers are not going to do that. And then we got the Fair Hemp hats, and I do have some of these Fair Hemp hats on eBay as well. These are like the super inexpensive hemp hat out there. There's actually one. So there's 2 black, 2 natural. The reason that there's 2 is because actually one has like a buckle style to adjust, and the other has Velcro to adjust. So, it depends on which one you prefer. If you do, I believe I have the Velcro ones listed on eBay. I'm not positive either way, but you can go to ERB Cinema. You can also, I think, search Hemptations probably, because I put Hemptations in the title of every. And then you can, follow me as a seller or whatever. And I'm always trying to post more, get more hemp stuff out there. The hemp hoodlamb jackets are coming. It is going to be time for those in the world, most of the world except for Australia. And so, and right now, although I did find out that I can actually ship internationally somewhat cheap still. Which is crazy, because I know there's a lot of countries that aren't even taking mail or stuff from the United States anymore, which seems not so as well. But all right, there's the 4 from the store. Now the actual 2 from my door. I was talking about, I think last week, or I know just recently on the show. So as I am, a man of my word. And usually when I say something, it is true. These are the deodorants that I'm currently using, the Schmitz brand. I talked about it. Again, they are hemp. and they are great. It's like a rose, which is kind of I don't want to say a girly smell, but it's kind of on the sweet smell of things. And then, the good old patchouli. So, I can have people tell me to get my patchouli stinking ass out of their record shop. This is one of my favorite lines from that movie, High Fidelity. Get your patchouli it's what he wanted to say to him, not what he does say to him. But he's thinking in his head, get your patchouli stinking ass out of my record shop. Anyway, yeah, there you go. 2 for my door deodorant that I use when I do use deodorant. All right, so there you have it. 4 from the store, 1 from my door. More. Go to eBay if you're anywhere else and would like the looks of some of those products. And now,
indeed, brings us, of course, to the beachwear segment. We, of course, talk about Beach, his immense amount of hemp clothing. We've chronicled it now for over 7 years, all the different hemp outfits, and that's just 1 day a week. You multiply that by 7, and you have what Beach is doing with hemp clothing. Of course, talk a lot about the Guinness World Records and all the hemp records that Beach has set and currently holds, and they all are not cared about at all by the Guinness World Records. So sometimes I like to, every week pretty much now, I like to go check out what the Guinness World Records does care about, because then most of it doesn't seem as important or as world-changing as hemp. I like to try to find some sort of, inspirational things that they have to do. At the very least, most of these records are just dumb and useless. At least they could be doing something with some of these records. And that's what we have today. We're actually going to the Guinness World Records website. First suit made from mustache hair appears in records book with inspirational message. That's right. First of all, lock that in, the mustache hair suit, and think about that for a second. This comes from Australia. It's something called Movember, an Australian initiative that encourages growing mustaches for men's health. To raise attention for men's mental and physical health issues during the month of Movember. This team created the first suit made from mustache hair from a blend of contrasting shades of donated facial hair. So uplifting and inspirational and completely gross all at the same time. Thank you, Guinness World Records.
100% gross.
Amazing when you're wearing it. I wouldn't think. I wouldn't volunteer.
I can't put a hemp suit in with my largest collection of hemp goods in the world, but there's your mustache.
You can't grow a hemp mustache, unfortunately.
Yeah, right?
So there's not much we can do with that. In any case, that, of course, brings us to the beachwear segment, because we'll talk about all the records that Beach sets and holds currently, and we'll do it every week. All I have to do is ask Beach one simple question. What are you wearing, Beach?
It's true. If you're curious, what are you wearing, Beach? Now you'll know here on the High Noon Hemp Show. I was talking about this head case hat. It was one of my favorites. It says, warning, do not smoke this cap. That was a really like a real thing that people were wondering about back in the early days of promoting hemp. If it could get you high, it does not in that way. My tee is a good old crop circle tee. My jeans, Dash Hemp jeans. You can go, I'm pretty sure you can find Dash Hemp clothing online still, hopefully. Got my Green Springs technology pen right there in the pocket, per usual. Underneath it all, a pair of I Love Bad briefs. Those are some Satori socks. You're going to see more of those on the show. And a pair of Wicked boots. So there you have it if you're curious. What are you wearing, Beach? On this glorious High Noon Hemp Show Hemp Day. Now you know. Now you know. All right. Well, here is a randomly chosen Hemptations, I should say, Planet Everywhere Studios trailer. Enjoy, and we'll be back with the news. Hemp is here.
That's right.
It's true. It's true.
Now we're pumped for hemp.
Now we're pumped. What is that interesting, like little message thing under there? I've never seen that before. Because I'm just discovering things that I've been doing forever. I didn't know. But it looks like I have 3 messages if I tap it, but I'm not going to right now because I got some news to report. And this one's very interesting. And if I do have a delayed reaction to a message that you post up, hello here too. And so I have a delayed reaction because I watch the YouTube feed and I can read it better than the tiny little screen that is my phone, and so that's why I have a delayed reaction to any little responses that you put up there on the screen. So don't think I'm ignoring you. I am not. I have bad eyesight and I need bifocals. So a compound in stevia may improve solubility of CBD by 4,000 times. All right. Now, this is a big issue, honestly, and it's been an issue with cannabinoids, period. And that is because most or all cannabinoids, as far as I know, are essentially fatty oils. So taking a fatty oil and putting it into a drink and making sure that it doesn't separate and still keeps its molecular structures and whatnot is kind of important. It's a huge thing in this industry. I think that for the most part, I've obviously gotten it pretty well down. I really think it was something that the CBD industry is probably still kind of messing with, only because the demand for those products are so low. But when it comes to THC, I do, I think that they're, and it was always, they would call it nano hemp or this or that. And I'm like, well, this is what I know. Once you get something into its smallest form, say CBD, you need to have CBD in its purest form, its smallest form. I don't know how you can make it any smaller, going to a nano scale and not lose something. That was always my brain. I mean, I'm not a scientist, or I should say I'm an amateur scientist. I do understand a lot of science. But again, I don't work on those levels, and so I'm not sure I really understand it. But that was kind of my question before, and so it's kind of an interesting that they can find a natural solution, and it's called stevioside. And again, it's just showing great potential in being able to improve the solubility in fatty oils, and CBD was one of the oils that they had tested, and they want to move forward, obviously, with more science to see if it actually holds up under more scrutiny, um, which is, kind of interesting. It does also, because they found this out because they were testing products for solubility for a hair treatment. I don't know, something weird. And what I also found funny about it is the hair treatment that got approved, and they're using the stevioside in so that the solubility of the product was better to be beneficial, because they weren't using CBD, where we know, or I have reported about a study that showed hair improvement in 100% of everyone in the group, from a small amount to a large amount of better hair growth using CBD. So anyway, put your CBD with your stevioside, and you might really be doing something for hair loss and many other things. I don't know. Well, if you've ever wondered, and I might have at some point or another wondered what 1,000 bales of hemp looks like, 1,000,000 pounds, here you go. It's like the Great Wall of Hemp.
That's a lot of hemp.
It's a lot of hemp. And it does kind of remind me of a famous believe it was a Civil War. No, it was a Civil War battle fought. It was actually called the Battle of the Hemp Bales. And it was in this really weird place like Springfield, Illinois, or something, like a really, really strange place. But they literally used hemp bales, big hemp bales, on a hill to defend the high part of the hill from whoever was invading. But you can go look that up. That is a part of the white person's American history. And I'm just defining what it is. Historically. But yes, the Battle of the Hemp Bales. But I mean, who's getting through that? I mean, you could conceivably catch it on fire. I know that hemp fire is flame retardant. It burns, but I believe that it takes longer to get it burning than normal. Again, I'm not positive if that science is true. One of the only Temptations-related stories that I can tell about that is I had a customer, and he comes in, and he's like, "Man, I got to tell you this amazing story." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, cool." And he's like, "About my hemp backpack," and I was like, "Wow, okay, I can't wait." He's like, "Well, my car caught on fire, and basically burnt to the ground." And I was like, "Shit, I hope the hemp backpack didn't cause this somehow." That's what I'm thinking in my head. No, it can be the hemp's fault. But push comes to shove, the only part of the seat that survived, so the part of the whatever the seat was made out of, it's the only thing that actually survived. His hemp backpack was on top of it. So his hemp backpack did burn, but it protected the seat underneath it somehow. Again, I just thought that was, just phenomenal. And that's a true story. About hemp. So, anyway, 1,000 pounds of hemp, man. We need 1,000 pounds of hemp, 1,000 bales. Over. It was actually 1,001 bales total,
No.
which made over 1 million pounds of biomass. Again, sup. And so, yeah, good stuff. So the South African president, and this isn't the first time that South Africa has really tried to embrace hemp farming, but the South African president, in his State of Nation address, declared that he wants South Africa to lead globally in commercial production of hemp and cannabis for industrial and medicinal users, which I think is interesting because it was hemp and cannabis. And I think that's the best way to define it as well. As we know, the government made up the term marijuana. We need to stop describing the 0.4% or more THC cannabis as marijuana and call it cannabis. And, whether it's medical cannabis or whatever. I mean, I do like medical marijuana because it kind of takes the term from them. They made up the word, but we're taking it back by using medical marijuana. And so I do kind of like describing that part of the industry that way. And so I think that if we call, cannabis, I don't know. There's a way to do it, but not that we're ever going to get word of the marijuana. The government owns it. They're always going to own the word marijuana, which is ridiculous because they spelled it with a J in 1937. No, I'm sorry. Is that right? It's spelled with an H or a J now.
Yeah, they start with an H.
Spelled with an H now. And then anyway, they reversed it. They switched it in 1969, and now that's the spelling we have. That's how made up the word was in 1937. So anyway, come on, South Africa, put some pressure on the United States. The United States should be the global leader in hemp farming. I mean, we need the fiber. We need the grain. We can keep throwing that flour, CBD flour, in with the mix. But, we need to be the global leaders of growing, farming, industrial hemp. And then we can, not only have a huge domestic market, but send that stuff around the world where it needs to be. I mean, if you want to make America great again, let's make farming great again. And I can't believe that that's the first time that I think I've said that. And since the whole MAGA thing came around. But again, if you really do want to make America great again, then let's make farming great again. Let's make farming great again. And there's a lot to that because right now, farming is terrible. It's corporate. It's ridiculous. It's not beneficial to any of us, honestly, for the most part. If you're not eating mostly the best you can, organic vegetables and fruits and whatnot, and again, that's a tiny market. It's a tiny market because corporate farming doesn't do that. Yeah. And then you look at the foods that we import. And who knows what we're getting there? If you look down on your food product and you see it's imported from another country, that's a terrible idea. I want my organic or mostly organically grown foods grown here, 30 miles down the road. That's what I always liked about Kroger's locally, is Kroger's bought their produce as close to them as they could. Major, huge grocery store chain. And it was, like part of their mission statement or whatever. And I know, I knew some executives in Kroger's, and that was one of the first things I learned about them that I couldn't believe was that they were committed to buying. Happy Wednesday, committed to buying their produce locally. It doesn't mean necessarily it was organic, but either way. So, bring it on, South Africa. So a new study shows that CBD may ease Alzheimer's related brain inflammation and improve cognition. All right. So we already know for the most part, again, I'm speaking from experience and from my customers tell me how good of an anti-inflammatory agent CBD is. I've been using it actually quite a bit this week as my shoulder injury from my quad injury. It's usually my back that flares up, and then I got to bust out the happiness cream. But my shoulder injury has been I don't know, with this weather change, maybe the cold nights, I don't know. So anyway, I've been busting out the happiness cream again. And so, I can testify to myself how well it works for those things. And then the cognitive thing, I understand too, is like CBD. People have this impression that CBD makes you tired, lethargic, and whatnot. It doesn't. The right dose kind of, adds like a clarity. It works for that anti-anxiety. And yes, it works to get great sleep because it relaxes the body so well. But it doesn't give you great sleep because it makes you tired and drowsy. It just gives you good sleep because all those other things are working the way it does. And again, this is for my customers. This is why our customers use these products. I am not speaking medically in any way. I am not a doctor. Okay. But, also this is what we know. We know about the endocannabinoid receptor system. And so, that is your brain takes in the cannabinoids and it says, where do these need to be? And then it sends it throughout the body, wherever it may be, including the brain. So apparently it just stays in the brain and then helps with these, and again, and this is my understanding of the medicine of Alzheimer's. My Grandma Marks had Alzheimer's. And so, I remember learning about it and what it is and, throughout my life learning because it's such a cruel disease, is there's no way to prevent it. And so everything that they try to work on is more of a slowing or preventing. I don't want to say preventing, but staying off, so to speak. But I think that, once it hits the brain, it's, there's nothing you can do to stop it. And so I know that even, I think part of my coffee study said that drinking coffee helps. If you are more likely to get Alzheimer's, family members had it or whatnot, then, if you drink so many cups of coffee, it may help put it off. And there's a lot of things that they say, like, video games, reading, keeping the mind busy, instead of letting the brain get stagnant. I don't know if any of those work or don't work, but I'm on board either way. And I don't have anybody. My Grandma Marks was actually my stepdad's mom. So Alzheimer's does not run in my family. My grandmother she passed when she was 94, and she was as sharp as a whip for the most part. when she passed. So I'm not too worried about losing my mind there. But I know it affects, a lot of our population, and it's just anything that we could do. I think that I'm pretty sure, and I don't know if I reported on it or not, but I know I read something else about CBD and Alzheimer's because of the fits that you get, uncontrollable fits like anger fits and whatnot, and how CBD would obviously help with that, I believe. So we'll see how far. I can't believe with all the studies that I have seen just in the last and reported on here on the show in the last 6-7 years, that, and again, the problem is it's natural. So the pharmaceutical companies can't get their forks in it or whatever, their talons into the
Hooks.
to the hooks. That's it, man. See, maybe I do need some CBD for Alzheimer's. Let's not laugh about these things. But anyway, and really, I can't believe, and I'm sure that they are kind of trying to add CBD to whatever drugs they're using, so therefore they could still at least have the patent on the full drug with the CBD, but not the CBD itself, because you cannot patent nature. So anyway, well, so again, Alabama is one of the only states that has gotten away with some of these draconian hemp law changes recently, and lo and behold, they're realizing that they're going to have to loosen the reins some, or the entire thing is going to go away, and they're going to lose money. So apparently they've decided to ease the burden on retailers somehow, some way. And again, I know, I had seen headlines, Alabama hemp store has to close because it's just too difficult to sustain business. So apparently they're gonna hopefully, they are going to ease up on some things. We'll see how much it affects or helps whoever may still be open in the state, and hopefully maybe some businesses will be able to reopen. We'll see. So to be clear, all right, this is someone else's words, but by this very person's words would make hemp rope intoxicating hemp under Ohio's ban. Here are her exact words. I felt the hemp ropes press deep into my skin. There was a familiar creaking noise from the tight ropes above and around me as they twisted and turned, holding my body aloft. I was quickly slipping into a different state, somewhere between hypnosis and an adrenaline rush. Well, that sounds intoxicating. Might just be one person's words, but that sure sounds intoxicating. All from being hung from the ceiling by hemp ropes and I guess this person, she does this once a week.
Nice.
And she goes to this person's house who has this dark room, and I guess you twist it up and you hang from the hemp ropes, kind of free hang from the roof, from the ceiling. I guess I kind of look at it maybe like it's supposed to be water deprivation kind of thing, almost like where you're, I don't know, feel like you're floating somehow. I don't know, but there you have it. From her description alone of this event, hemp rope would be on that list of intoxicating hemp.
That's right. Ban it.
Ban that shit. No more hemp rope. Get that out of here. It's not safe for the kids.
That's right.
Not safe for the kids. Okay, well, I went on a little shopping search. I didn't actually go on a shopping spree, but I did go on a shopping search for you, the High Noon Hemp Show watchers. And it all started because somehow my Google, and again, this has never happened before, but my Google said, shop deals. It offered this to me somewhere, and I don't even, it hasn't happened since either. Shop deals for hemp totes. And I was like, what? All right. So I clicked on it, and it was like hemp totes that were on sale. Which ironically, I didn't actually take a picture of those, but I did say, hey, you know what? Let's shop some deals for some other hemp stuff. And so here's some Pumas that are on sale. And this is, I'm pretty sure this is pumas.com. And I do want to say that even on sites that aren't on sale, there isn't, and this is the state of the economy in the United States right now. There wasn't one of these websites that I popped on that didn't want to give me 15 or 20 bucks off or percentage off if I give them their email, off my first purchase or whatever. So there's always deals. Anyway, if you've never purchased, or if you have a different email that you want to give them, because that's all you have to do. If you've already given somebody an email, then you can't get that deal. What happened there? I fell down a little.
Technical issues.
So anyway, and so here's the Pumas. Here's a pair of iPath, and I haven't seen a whole lot of, and I'm glad to see that the iPaths are still doing that. And they have, I think they had a black version of this iPath as well. I wore my iPaths yesterday, the one pair that I have of hemp iPaths. And they're not nearly as hempy as these. These are like full hemp. I think mine are just like hemp stripes or whatever. I'm not sure. They do have the red, green, and yellow though as well. So.
Nice.
And there's those Satori. The Satori I was talking about. Satori socks are on sale. So, and some of their clothing, I think I posted another picture of some Satori stuff. And so, yeah, here's some good old-fashioned sort. And they've still got their boxers, and you've seen Satori boxers. You have seen those boxer briefs here on the High Noon Hemp Show. Their wallets, some of their socks, their T-shirts. And so some good deals to be had at Satori. I think it's SatoriMovement.com. Just search Satori Hemp or Satori Movement Hemp, and their website should pop up. Either way. And again, we've been selling Satori goods 25 years at least. That's why, again, if you watch the show enough, you have seen probably over 100 times Satori socks. Because they make up a good deal of the socks that I own, one way or another. And then again, I got some briefs, and I've got T-shirts and hoodies still, but I definitely have a decent amount of Satori clothing. So support their hemp stuff if you can. Hemptopia has their socks, I believe, on sale. If I sent that picture. Oh, no, wait. How about some more Satori? Let's not. Oh, okay, yeah. Let's take a look at these Satori tees. These are new images to the Satori line. And I really like the sun. I just, as you know, and tomorrow night is especially not a time to be celebrating yellow and black here in Cincinnati since we play Schittsburg tomorrow. But, that is a yellow and black T-shirt I would wear.
Just not tomorrow.
But not tomorrow, or even close to. Not even probably during the football season.
Right.
Sorry, you're not going to catch me in what little yellow and black I have. Period. During the football season. Anyway, so here's the Hemptopia socks. I really like Hemptopia. You have seen plenty of Hemptopia boxer briefs. I don't think I have any of their socks, but I do wear their boxer briefs quite a bit. And I really do like them. They are pretty much identical to what I was purchasing, made out of cotton previous to finding them. And so, I mean, exactly. If you like that kind of tight fitting boxer brief that you buy, cheap cotton out of, and again wears out. Like I can't even tell you. I have to go back and check my. I think I got them on Amazon when I bought them originally. Check my Amazon on see when I purchased these boxer briefs, but none of them are showing wear. And I would almost guarantee you that it's been 5 years, could have been even longer. Same with my I Love Bad ones, the ones I have on today. They're a little bit looser fitting, so they're more like a boxer than a brief. But yeah, I feel for you. But the I Love Bad ones are great, and my Satori ones are good. The only actual boxer briefs that I think I have, or boxers, I want to say they're more boxer actually, are my head case ones, and it's only because I have had them so long that they're kind of showing some wear to them. So anyway, there we go. And then how about these Kind Hemp socks? Definitely go to Kind Hemp. You have seen Kind Hemp on my feet. I love nothing more than to say, I've got Kind Hemp socks and Wicked boots on. You know that. But these are the Kind Hemp socks I'm talking about, and these are just fun. And again, they do have some other. I think they at least have their black and ones, but really kind of like these. What we used to call a tube sock. I don't know why. Maybe I'm not sure why that's called a tube sock. But anyway, fun. They're fun. Either way. So this is something I've done. This Zone by Lydia, and I don't know what. I don't even know where Zone by Lydia is, but it's zonebylydia.com. That's her website. The clothing that she's making out of hemp are really neat. I think that it's a full line of stuff, and they are. Thanks for catching that. But they are really well priced. And it's kind of like workout wear, almost beach wear, as you can see. Very, very beachy. But even the expensive ones, and I'll show the next picture here. I think it's kind of neat. But yes, this shirt seems to be very expensive, but it is also 100% hemp. Like she blends some of her stuff, hemp, organic cotton. And that stuff is, as you can see, the shirt on the other side, is pretty well priced. Yes, still a little bit expensive, and we're still working on trying to get those prices down. But this stuff looks really good. And again, when you go through her whole website of clothing, it is really some nice stuff. And again, not really priced, as unreasonable as I've seen stuff priced for hemp clothing. So I really think that they're making a serious effort to use as much hemp as possible. Again, with working some 100% hemp linen stuff. And so I think it's, and again, what you have to imagine there is, that might be expensive, but that's, it should last you and your family and your kids and their kids, or pass it down, whatever, for a long time, either way. And you get 100% of the energy put out by the hemp fiber, if you believe in that. Either way. All right, so I'm going to end this little shopping street. Is that more?
So,
Oh, that's the Young Maven. Yeah, I can't forget Young Maven.
right.
I was almost going to forget Young Maven until I went to the next one. But yes, you definitely have to support Young Maven. They're doing some pretty crazy stuff over there as far as price wise goes, but Young Maven, they deserve to make it, and their goal was always, and this was 25 years ago. He started a T-shirt for everyone type of mentality. He wanted a hemp T-shirt for everyone, which is he sent me on my drive to everyone should have a hemp T-shirt. If we live in a world where everyone has a hemp T-shirt, then we're living in a world where everyone's wearing hemp clothing, and the world is so much happier. The world is smiling at us. The world is saying, breathe fresh air. And that's just one thing that hemp can do, and it can do it. And I know it sounds ridiculous to those that don't understand, but it really is true. And Young Maven is one of those companies that's dedicated to hemp as a fiber and what it can do. And so, how about a little beach candy? Yeah, I'm going to close with beach candy because that's the name of this company. And I will have to say that I felt a little creepy checking out most of their products. Only because, thongs and, it's like, and here's what was interesting is because I think I actually put in deals on hemp underwear. And like the very first picture that popped up from Beach Candy, I was like, well, that's a bathing suit. I felt better about looking at it, because I was like, that's a bathing suit. And then sure as hell, yes, they have bathing suits, but they have thongs and all kinds of stuff. And then just because I'm not sexist in any way, I want to show here's some guys' clothing. Some guys
I need that outfit.
guy's outfit, at least one male outfit that Beach Candy offered.
That's gonna be my look right there.
Can I tell you how much I'm very excited about making sure that the ladies in the show got to see this?
Right.
Because again, most of the hemp fashion is actually dedicated to the women.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you go search for hemp clothing and hemp fashion, most of it is actually women's clothing. It's, there's men's clothing out there, don't get me wrong. But there are, more women's. So as to not be sexist in any way, I definitely want for the men and the women to represent. And there you have it.
That's right.
I'm going to leave everybody with that image. No, that's not the image I'm going to leave everybody with today. This is the image I'm going to leave everybody with today. This is the Heartland Hemp Ladies. Now, the Heartland Hemp Ladies all came out of, and this is an old picture. This is from years ago. But it all came out of my association with the Ohio Rights Group, which was Ohio's first attempt to get therapeutic cannabis and industrial hemp legalized in the state of Ohio. And for the record, we got more signatures than any initiative without any funding. So we didn't get enough signatures to get it on the ballot. But we got more signatures than any initiative that wasn't highly funded. Okay. This pushed the next legalization bill that was highly funded in the state of Ohio. But just what we did with mostly volunteers, very little money, just getting the word out alone on both, therapeutic cannabis and industrial hemp. And, the initiative had a section for industrial hemp, separate section, which is why I got so involved in it. I was actually the regional manager. But all these ladies throughout the state were a part of that. And then it failed, but they did actually open up their own hemp store called Heartland Hemp. And if you look on the table there, you may see some products that look familiar. Those cornhole bags were made by Planet Everywhere, my manufacturing company. A lot of the products that they sold, they went through me to get, which was awesome. They didn't, survive where they were, unfortunately, for very long. But putting that effort out there was awesome. A lot of these ladies are still in the cannabis world in Ohio in one way or another, and some of them are, have gone other directions. But they were all dedicated to cannabis and hemp, and actually they might have come into it more dedicated to cannabis, so to speak. That cannabis I was talking about, that therapeutic cannabis, than they were hemp. But when it was all said and done, they still move forward with supporting hemp and all the great things that it can do. So it warmed my heart to see this pop up. I think Larissa popped up on her page, so she reposted it. And when I saw it, it definitely warms my heart. Reminds me of some moving times, literally moving times in the state of Ohio when it came to cannabis. So, all right, there's a couple events. I believe the Hemp Maze in Minnesota is still open. And, conceivably speaking, they don't, depending on how or what they're doing with it, they don't. I was thinking, well, they don't have to cut it down anytime soon. Maybe if it's a grain field, it's one thing. I think they're growing for fiber, and so they can leave that maze up there as long as they want. It's not going to affect when they do harvest. Either way. Well, I should probably plug my phone in, which I didn't do. Just warning me. No.
Yeah.
I think I got enough to get us through if we have to, but we're good. And so, yeah, and again, they do have the Canada Golf Course, which is, as long as weather's permitting, should stay up as long as it can, too. Now, November 13th, if you're in Kansas and you're curious about that world, you can go to this event, which is the annual Kansas Agricultural Hemp Conference. And it is free to attend. And cannabis, as you can see, or Kansas, not cannabis, Kansabis, we call it Kansabis. They're really trying to boost the grain and fiber market. They don't want Kansas, and of course, because they're anti-intoxicating hemp, not my word, their word. If I've ever seen a state, there was always the rumor that the Kansas State Police would sit at the border of Colorado and Kansas and pull people over for buying legal weed in Colorado, which I find to be absurd because I don't know how do they know? I mean, again, they definitely had to be profiling.
Yeah.
But you put a peace sign on your car and you're getting pulled over coming out of Colorado.
Looking for hippies.
They do not like that.
Hippies.
But that's right. No references to skateboarding because, as the cop in Tennessee said to the kid, all skateboarders smoke pot. I'm not making that story up either. But, Kansas really wants the hemp and the grain industry, and of course they do. I mean, Kansas is a great environment to grow hemp for grain or fiber. I think you go the upper part of Kansas for the fiber and maybe the lower part for the grain if you really want to tweak it a little bit. But either way, I think that, those amber waves of grain that I think the song came from in Kansas, I don't know, that grain could be hemp too. And I'd love to see that. But Kansas is really embracing um, the hemp farming that we need every state to embrace and to make as easy as possible and help with as much as they can. And again, next thing you know, those hemp farmers, they're going to be the ones supplying that grain to the food companies. They're going to be the ones supplying that fiber. They'll probably be shipping it to North Carolina to be made into material because that's where most of that happens. But um, that's happening. And so good for them going into our clothing probably as we speak. So I do have a question, and it's not my question, um, but it is a question that I think is a great question, and it was brought by someone who is as much a hemp fiber expert as anyone on the planet, and that was from Hemp Traders. And he started the question. Um, what size of hemp stalks produce the best fiber? Here's some, free advice if you want to grow hemp fiber. It basically says the short answer is 1/4 of an inch. So, when your hemp fiber stalks are 1/4 of an inch, then that's the fiber that you want to harvest. And there's a couple reasons for that. He says, because this usually gives you a finer fiber, which is what you want because you want to be able to weave it into, you want the availability to weave it into the finest material you can, because if you can weave it into the finest material you can, then you can weave it into any material that you want. It makes it easier to weave it into a canvas, weave it into a t-shirt consistency, whatever it may be. And it makes it more consistent as well. There's one of the biggest arguments against hemp fiber for material back in the day is you couldn't get it consistent. Like every once in a while, and again, I don't know if I feel my jeans hard enough, I might find like that one little tiny knot that was in the hemp that was just a little bit thicker, and it just made a little bit of an inconsistency. Should we all be able to live with that? Well, yes, we should. Okay. Either way. But I think that the goal is, once again, to have the finer material so you can wave it so you don't have those inconsistencies. And then people are like, ooh, my shirt's going to last 4 to 6 times stronger than a cotton shirt, but it's got this one tiny little knot in here that I don't like. Anyway. And then the other part of this is, because you're not trying to grow it big and thick, you can actually grow more in the field. And again, this is always something, if you watch the show or have ever heard me speak, you'll know that this is something that I say a lot. When you're growing for the fiber, you want it to be long, tall, skinny. I call that the beach version of the stalk, long, tall, skinny. For those that don't know, because I don't know if I actually am pretty skinny right now. But anyway, and then if you're growing for the grain, it's okay to be a shorter, stockier, because you're trying to get that flour big to get the grain in there. And so it makes sense. If you're trying to get a number in your head, he says that it takes about 75 to 130 pounds of seed per acre to get that 1/4 of an inch yield. So that's what it is. I have no idea. I am now curious, and I may go try to do some research and see what I can find when it comes to the prices of hemp seed, industrial hemp seed, fiber or grain now, just to see. But there you have it. If you want to grow for fiber, start talking to some, try to, and this is something that, once again, that this was the advice that I was giving hemp farmers pretty much from like 2015 on, probably. And then when we started the show is, obviously don't grow because you can. Find someone that wants to buy that grain. Find someone that wants to buy that fiber. I think there's plenty of outlets. There's definitely an outlet for the herd, that stock, more and more hempcrete projects and whatnot. Shoot for that 1,002 bale record.
Right.
I mean, that hemp record that those people just set, okay, to me, that's a hemp record. 1,001 hemp bales, 1,000,000 pounds of hemp in one place at one time. That starts the record.
Yeah.
Shoot to beat that record. Go for 1,002 bales and 1,017 pounds. No, I don't know if the exact million pounds. You have to do both because you can't just say 1,002 bales if your bales are only this big.
Right.
That would be cheating. You have to at least have the amount of bales or the weight, either one, or both. Both. See, more records to be put into the Beach Hemp Book of Records.
There you go.
Either way. All right, folks. We appreciate you being here. We're going to be here next week. I am adjusting my closing statements by saying, reduce, reduce. Now that I'm having to think about it, it's like you can say it like I say it in my sleep. Like I probably roll over and say, reduce, reuse, 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 reduce, recycle, replant, replace. Having temptations.
See y'all next week.